Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. We'll call to meeting the order, or excuse me, we'll call to order the meeting of the Auburn Common Council. We'll begin with a moment of silent meditation or reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on to roll call. Councilman Fincham.
Here.
Councilman Braun.
Here.
Councilman Webb.
Here.
Councilwoman DeWitt.
Here.
Councilman Williams.
Here.
Councilman Bundy.
Here.
Councilwoman Prosser.
Here.
Council, in front of you, you have the meeting minutes from the December 16th meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve the minutes. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Recognition of visitors: Denny Ketzenberger, Mike Littlejohn, Justin Fry, Andy Barron, Jeff Jones, Jim Catterett, welcome, and Ryan Shamble. Move on to communications. We'll begin with the annual report from code enforcement. The actual code enforcement officer is not able to make it this evening, so BPD Administrator Ryan Shambo will present.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Ryan Shambo, Building and Planning Administrator. In 2025, we had approximately 100 site visits for complaint-based code violations. Complaints directly communicated to our office or forwarded from other departments such as the police department and the mayor's office. These numbers do not reflect any calls or visits handled by the police department. Of these complaint-based code violations, the breakdown would be tall weeds and grass complaints, 62, junk and outdoor storage complaints, 15, building safety complaints, 10, parking standard complaints, 7, animal issue complaints, 6. The city did have to abate several properties a total of 4 times throughout the year for violating the tall weeds and grass ordinance. And last, our department investigated 3 unsafe structures, 2 of which required the issuance of an order of enforcement, 1 for an emergency vacate and repair, the 2nd for just repair. This 3rd structure was demolished by the property owner themselves. That concludes our report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions by the council? Is there anyone in the public that would like to address the council? Anyone in the public that would like to address the council? Hearing none, we'll move on. Nothing from the clerk this week. So that brings us to ordinances and resolutions.
Resolution 1-2026, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Auburn, Indiana, authorizing the creation of a community development corporation. Summary: the attached resolution calls for the Common Council of the City of Auburn to authorize the creation of the Auburn Community Development Corporation. I move that we pass resolution number 1-2026 on first and only reading.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, to pass resolution 01-2026. Any discussion or questions?
Yes. This is all new, and just got it like Saturday. Read through the stuff. Wondered if you were going to have some kind of presentation on what the goals are, what it's going to, how it operates and what we're trying to achieve.
Sure. I'll begin if you add to it. So Council President DeWitt brought up the idea of a community development corporation early on in 2025. We have researched some of the opportunities that would allow. The vision for the CDC would to streamline some processes. It does reduce some red tape. So if, for example, one of the visions for it would be potentially working with the county commissioners, acquiring some of these infill lots that are have back taxes, have not sold at tax sale, which we do have some. Acquire those lots, find some developer, hopefully local, depends. Sell the lots to a developer with strict stipulations that they have to build within a certain amount of time, 90, 120 days, depending on how long it takes to go through that process. In addition to that, the one thing that with the CDC that would streamline that process is you don't necessarily have to go out to public bid. The goal would be for a developer to build some sort of smaller scale home, maybe 900 to 1,000 square feet. We have some smaller infill lots that would hold smaller homes. So it would eliminate having to put those properties out for public bid. We could, but if we had a specific developer that would want to develop that lot, they could do that. Also, it opens up funding opportunities for grants, some that the city may not qualify for because it is considered a nonprofit. It can also provide other incentives once established to developers that maybe the city is unable to provide as well. For example, maybe some sort of reimbursement agreement that they put in infrastructure, which we can't. The city has limitations, and Zach, I can let you speak on that because we kind of had that situation in the last year where we weren't able to do a certain, I guess, say reimbursement mechanism.
Yeah, so to go along with what the mayor said, redevelopment commissions have lots of rules and restrictions on how they can do certain things. The way CDCs are used in a lot of cities, they will enter into the redevelopment commission can make a loan to the CDC because they're a nonprofit to be able to purchase, to fulfill some sort of a plan with a specific direction, with a specific goal. And then the CDC can acquire property, sell that to a developer, and then kind of continue to do that process. But with the redevelopment commission, we can't, generally, if we're providing funding or incentives to a developer, those have to be through a bonding mechanism as opposed to some sort of a reimbursement agreement or something a little less formal. And so this allows us to help projects and progress happen without the extra, $100,000 to $150,000 that it costs to go through a whole bonding process. And these CDCs are becoming more and more common in cities. They generally, the CDC, this resolution is not strictly required by law. This is to give council the awareness of what's happening. Council can, with the right project, appropriate funds to the CDC. This is just the first step. We have to create the bylaws and figure out the composition of the CDC board. And I had another point, and it's gone.
There's over 440 CDCs in the state of Indiana. The majority of those work mainly in the low to moderate income parts of a municipality or city. The board, the bylaws is what sets the board. Statutorily, you have to have a minimum of 3 members. It appears that most of those boards have 5 to 7. The board's made up typically of business owners, community members, and civic leaders from within the community. There's no requirement, or no max requirement on the number of board of directors, but the average is 5 to 7. Term limits, no more than 5 years, minimum of 1. if you don't put
Is your
any
mic on there?
Oh, sorry.
Gotta say that all over again.
So, there's over 440 of those CDCs in Indiana. Most of them, the work that they do are within the low or moderate areas of a community. And then the board, one of the questions that I was asked was, how does the board made up? The bylaws determine the board makeup has to be a minimum of 3 per statute. Most commons 5 to 7, and that is made up of community leaders, business owners, civic leaders, and maximum of a 5-year term, minimum of a 1 if you don't put anything in the bylaws for a term limit or the years. So,
I think you guys hit everything. I think it just adds some flexibility to what we're able to do in a different way. We've tackled a lot of new things, a lot, I think, over the last few years. And so this is just another tool in our toolbox to have some leverage with investment for the future. So.
And I remember what I was going to say is CDC's. There's no direct. It's not a line item on our budget. They don't get directly just funded to be able to do what they want. There has to be loan agreements. Things can be donated. So in the instance of the county, if they have lots that are some of these odd lots that owe a bunch of taxes that just don't sell at tax sale because of all the issues involved, the county can ultimately provide or in a sense donate those to nonprofits, other municipal units. So the community can also donate to it. People, if they like what was happening, could donate money so that development or other things can happen. But it's a fairly collaborative process because the CDC it doesn't have its own funding mechanism. So they have to work with whether it's the redevelopment commission or the council. So then there's oversight on what is being done, what the money is being used for, what the rules are for the development and all of that. So there's a reason why so many of them are popping up. They're a great tool that is allowed under the law to kind of streamline and simplify the process.
I'd like to make a comment about this. From what I understand, as it was explained to me, at first I was kind of leery of adding another entity because it would be adding red tape. But after I understood more about what it was about, it would actually eliminate red tape and make things more streamlined and easier to do business, so to speak. And I also like that it can be used for commercial and residential, not specifically one, but both. So I do like that. So.
Yeah, I have a couple more questions. And the big thing that I was wondering is how the financing was going to come through for this. There's 2 types of organizations: community-based organization or community development corporation. And wondered, I've read through IC 4-4-28 3 times. And there must be more state code on this, Mr. Leitner, that explains this other places, or
it's not a statutory construction. So the entity is defined in that section, but there's really not a code section that, there's not like a council, plan commission, BZA has they've got their own code sections that define who the members are, what their terms, how the whole thing works. This is not defined in that way.
well, that's part of my issue is I'm wondering if somebody like an existing CDC could give us a little scenario of how they're doing things and how things are working out for them. That would be great. But on the I see 4-4-282, Community Development Corporation, and there's like 3 things that it can go for. One, A, is housing, and B, community-based economic development projects. And that's, I think, what you're leaning toward. But it doesn't go into detail on how all that works. And then the rest of the 4-4-28 talks about individual helping and buying a car or buying a house or remodeling a house, and they can set up an account and get put tax-free money. You know, that's really into the weeds on this whole thing, but it's so I'm curious about how it's being used with other communities, and if we could get something, and I prefer to hear that from somebody or a written out scenario on what they're doing, how it's working, where the funding's coming from, and what they're doing with it. And I'd kind of like to table this for one more meeting and get that information and then vote on it.
So, I mean, we've met with several of them. I'm happy to discuss that with you. I had reached out to you. I never got an email back from you. But we can certainly connect you with other communities across the state who do this. If you Google it, it's pretty out there. They have to, just like any other nonprofit, put out their annual reporting. I would assume they would come here and do an annual report just like department heads or anyone else across the city. So I think it's going to be very transparent. The reason why the state of Indiana does not have the red tape in the meat in there is because it's not supposed to be. That's the beauty of it, right? So, but yeah, we can certainly connect you with other communities that do this.
Well, I didn't get this information till Saturday, and lots going on and trying to get through. And like I said, I've read this state statute 3 times, and I'm understanding it more on the 3rd reading on what's going on. But I have concerns as a councilman that if we're funding this with tax dollars and we're talking to all the other departments about how to cut back and figure out how to
I
charge.
never said we were funding it with taxpayer dollars.
Their TIF money is taxpayer dollars.
It's all repaid. It's all loans.
That's a loan. Well, that's different. Yes, and that's the first I've heard that tonight. They're talking about money in institutions and, depositing money, but they don't say in the state code where that money comes from. But we can allocate money out of the general fund.
It's possible. Usually it's a redevelopment commission. There's an agreement with the redevelopment commission where they loan the funds. Council can do the same. There's a mechanism, but it's generally through the redevelopment commissions where those fund, but they're not gifts, grants, whatever. They are loans.
Well, that's better. Loans are better.
Yeah.
And so, my initial concern is we're, using tax money that we're working on trying to keep under control over the next few years. So that's another reason I kind of like to hear from some community that's already doing it, how they get their funding set up and how it's working in the projects they're working on.
Yeah, and I would add to that, to the possibility of redevelopment loaning funds to a CDC. That's not even the intention. The intention would be for it to sustain itself. Again, like I talked about, the lots that have went to tax sale that haven't sold, acquiring those, start there. In addition to that, some of the grant opportunities out there would be another way to it'd be a mechanism to have access to those types of programs. And then you referenced housing in that code as well, and I think that's the main key. Hopefully someday it would be able to do much larger scale projects, but in the beginning I don't see that, and I don't believe I didn't have
That was
the
never the
intention
intent.
to go ask redevelopment for a loan for any type of to start this off. So.
Well, I guess part of my problem too is a resolution, we only vote on it once. We're an ordinance, and we used to vote on resolutions twice. So we had that opportunity to review all the facts, talk about it. Anybody that wants to say something to us at the meeting, and they can tell us by the second vote. So I guess that's part of my issue too, is we're only voting on this once.
And to be clear, to reinstate what he said before, was that this didn't have to come here. I asked them to do that so that we could all be educated on it.
Well, I appreciate getting educated, because that's one of the main things I like to do is find out what's going on, and appreciate that.
Any other discussion, questions? Hearing none. We'll call for a question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolution 2026-1, an ordinance amending Chapter 163 entitled Auburn Building Code Fee Schedule of the City of Auburn Code of Ordinances. Summary, this ordinance amends and restates Chapter 163 entitled Auburn Building Code Fee Schedule of the City of Auburn Code of Ordinances. I move that we pass ordinance number 2026-1 on first reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second pass ordinance 2026-01 on first reading. Any discussion, questions?
Yeah, I do, Mayor. You're gonna have Jim talk on this, or?
You, yes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Sure. So part of the problem I have is in this is just a small section of language. I think it's on, let's see, on the third page when it talks about improvement location permits on number 1, it says residential and it says deck, porch, above ground, pool, stairs. I just want to make sure when you say above ground pool, you're not talking about somebody who can go to Walmart, buy a kit, go home, put it up in their backyard. We don't have to have a permit for that. Is that correct?
No.
So could we say something like a permanent structure, a permanent pool? I mean, because it's kind of vague. I mean, by saying above ground pool.
Actually, when we say above ground pool, the Indiana Swimming Pool Code does define the size of above ground pools. Top of my head, I don't know how many gallons. I know there's a minimum height in gallons that they refer to as above ground pools, not the blue bladder type that you're talking about that you buy at Walmart.
Right.
No, it would be more of the permanent with the metal, the skin, the liner. Sure. Yeah.
So I guess my question is leaving it the language as is that, I mean, is that going to be interpreted that way in the future?
It's pursuant to Indiana code, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So it'd be
in our handout, we have handouts also that we hand out. So like if you come to our office, to our counter, and you're questioning a pool permit, we'll give you a handout that explains swimming pools, above ground and permanent in-ground swimming pools.
Okay, great.
So,
And that's one of my biggest concern, because when I read that, that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah. Our department at the time, we really try to educate the customer and explain.
Sure.
So, but that is a good question. There are different size above ground pools.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Not to put you on the spot, but when you talk about above ground pool and there being a state definition, is that based on gallons, size?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Talks about the construction of the pool. I believe there's a minimum height. I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's 40 some inches. There's a gallon. Yes.
But those definitions are
it's more than just that of a kiddie pool or a blue bladder you blow up and put water in it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a definition for this type of above ground pool.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions or discussion?
Yes. My computer has froze, so I'm not quite sure where I'm at. But one of the things that has come to mind to me is we're doing fees and schedules of fees in an ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
And so how many years has it been since this has been reviewed or changed or raised?
Well, it's my understanding this fee schedule has been reviewed over the years. Not all permits, though, not all fees have been revised. Some have remained the same. The ones that we have on for tonight's agenda being, let's just take one, for instance, the square footage for new construction. Upon our research, we've seen that last revised ordinance went from 5 cents to 6 cents, ordinance number 2006-21.
Okay.
That's 20 years ago. So that's kind of what has led for our department to start reviewing fees, because we believe we're behind on fees. When I review surrounding entities, when I send emails to other building administrators and asking what their fee schedules are. So like I have two examples. City of Angola is at $25 for a fence. We're at $0. Columbia City's at $40. We're at $0.
Ryan, can you talk a little bit about how much time it takes to do a permit for a fence?
Yeah. So we're going from square footage now to fences and accessory structure. But back to square footage real quick. Trying to find it here. Those department, City of Angola and Columbia City, one was at 8 cents plus $120. One's at 10 cents a square foot. We're at 6 cents.
Yeah, that's kind of my point.
So yeah.
And you don't know how long ago those ordinances were passed in the other cities, so you don't know if that was like a couple years ago or 10 years ago.
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. And my point is that we need. I have suggested before that if we have a sunset clause on these kind of ordinances that have fees, then we're kind of forced to say a 5-year sunset clause, and we're forced to look at that and adjust the fees. Instead of waiting 20 years, we're going, hey, we should be doing something. We all change up here over time.
Yeah.
And and the department heads do change over time. So you can't rely on them remembering that we need to do something about
and that's just it. Being the new administrator as of 2025, I've taken this past year to evaluate and review a number of things, processes, our procedures of ordinances, and then a number of issues have kept resurfacing with fences and accessory structures like sheds. That's led our department to start reviewing these fees and seeing where we're at. And we're wanting to recoup our costs. We're losing money.
I agree. And
so
we got 20 years here, and I go to the park board meetings. They just reviewed their fees that were 8 years old.
Yeah.
So we need some mechanism, I think, to help trigger that as a gradual cost of living increase on all these fees and stuff, instead of waiting 20 years and then saying we need to raise 50% or 40% or whatever the percentage is that we're trying to do right now.
So that is the reasoning for these two chapters being on tonight's agenda. We have reviewed these, and there were just some that just really stood out that we felt that it was time that we need to, bring up to in order to recoup our cost. So we're trying.
Is that enough? Is that cost enough?
We believe so.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't want tonight's agenda.
I don't want to see you, if you need 5 cents, only doing 4.
Like I said, looking at surrounding entities where they're at, I feel that 10 cents puts us where Angola and Columbia City's at.
Okay. I just don't want to see us going backwards, so to speak.
Yeah. So.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
So I guess my question would be, what would be good wording for an amendment to put a sunset clause on these, Mr. Attorney?
That's a great question.
Or would that be more of an internal process?
Well,
Well, so the problem with the sunset clause is, just like these fees have not been looked at for years, the problem with the sunset clause is you have a clause that says at the end of X amount of time, this goes away. I'm sure we can all keep on top of that. But if we don't, then it goes away and the ordinance is now no longer valid, which then creates additional issues. I guess I don't know that I'm comfortable spitballing the language for a sunset clause.
Well, this does have two readings. So if you want to research a little bit and maybe present something to me before the next meeting or whatever, maybe, just sunset on the fees themselves or